This is your New York City News Roundup, breaking down the most important stories from the last week across the 5 boroughs, from health alerts and city leadership changes to crime, culture, and the everyday issues that affect how we live, work, and move through this city. This is news for New Yorkers, explained clearly and directly. Let's get into it. Winter flu surge puts pressure on NYC hospitals. Over the past week, New York City has seen a sharp rise in serious seasonal illness, with hospitals reporting unusually high numbers of flu-related admissions. Emergency rooms across the city are dealing with increased patient volume, especially among children, seniors, and people with underlying health conditions. Medical staff say this surge is coming earlier and hitting harder than many expected. Doctors are encouraging residents not to ignore symptoms like high fever, body aches, breathing difficulty, or extreme fatigue. Early treatment can make a major difference. The rise in illness is also affecting schools and workplaces, with more absences and staffing shortages being reported citywide. Health professionals continue to stress simple but effective steps, rest, hygiene, and vaccinations as the best defense during peak winter months. For New Yorkers juggling work, family, and daily responsibilities, staying ahead of illness right now is critical. Major change in NYC healthcare. Brooklyn hospital transition. In major healthcare news this week, New York City announced plans to bring a struggling Brooklyn hospital under the city's public health system. The move is intended to stabilize services in a community that relies heavily on the hospital for emergency care, maternity services, and long-term treatment. City officials say the goal is simple: prevent service disruption and protect access to health care, especially for low-income and vulnerable residents. The transition will involve significant public investment and oversight, ensuring the hospital can continue operating without interruption. Some community members have raised concerns about how changes in management could affect the hospital's identity and patient experience. City leaders say they're committed to working with local voices during the transition. For patients and families, the key message right now is continuity. Doctors, emergency rooms, and essential services will remain available. New mayor takes office. A shift in city leadership. This past week marked a historic moment in New York City politics as a new mayor officially took office. The inauguration was symbolic and unconventional, reflecting a message of change, inclusion, and connection to the city's history. The new mayor's background represents a first for New York, highlighting the city's evolving identity. In early remarks, the administration emphasized priorities like affordability, public safety, housing access, and fairness across communities. Key appointments were announced quickly, signaling how City Hall plans to operate moving forward, with a focus on legal experience, policy depth, and administrative stability. For New Yorkers, leadership transitions matter less for ceremony and more for results. Residents are watching closely to see how promises turn into action, especially when it comes to rent, safety, transit, and quality of life. NYC driver. Homicide shakes community. In tragic news this week, a driver in New York City was killed in a violent incident that has left a neighborhood shaken. According to investigators, the driver was attacked while working, and first responders were unable to save the victim. The case is being treated as a homicide, and authorities are actively pursuing leads. The incident has reignited concerns about worker safety, especially for drivers, delivery workers, and others who spend long hours on the road. Community leaders are calling for justice, accountability, and stronger protections for workers who keep the city moving at all hours. For many New Yorkers, this tragedy hits close to home, reminding us how quickly routine workdays can turn deadly. Anyone with information related to the case is encouraged to contact authorities. Disturbing family tragedy in Queens. In another deeply troubling case this week, authorities in Queens responded to a family tragedy involving the death of a young child. Investigators say the situation involved severe injuries and has resulted in serious criminal charges. The case remains under investigation as officials work to determine exactly what happened. This story has sparked renewed discussion around mental health, family support systems, and early intervention resources. City advocates emphasize that help is available for families in crisis, and that reaching out early can prevent irreversible outcomes. It's a painful reminder of the importance of community awareness and accessible mental health services across the city. Iconic Times Square. Restaurant closes after decades. In cultural news, New York City said goodbye to a longtime Times Square restaurant that served locals, performers, and visitors for nearly 5 decades. The closure marks the end of a familiar gathering place known for its classic atmosphere and connection to Broadway culture. Rising commercial rents, staffing challenges, and post-pandemic pressures played a major role in the decision to shut its doors. For many New Yorkers, this isn't just about one restaurant. It reflects a broader trend of historic businesses struggling to survive in high-cost neighborhoods. As the city evolves, residents continue to wrestle with how to preserve culture while adapting to economic reality. National issues that impact NYC. While these stories are rooted in New York, national decisions continue to shape life here. Economic policy affects interest rates, housing markets, and job security, especially in industries like finance, media, and technology. Healthcare policy influences funding, staffing, and access across city hospitals. And national safety and transportation policies often determine how resources flow into major cities like New York. What happens outside the city limits rarely stays there, and New Yorkers feel the impact fast. That's your NYC News Roundup, the stories from the past week that matter right now. If you live in this city, these headlines aren't abstract, they're personal. If this update helped you stay informed, support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It helps independent, New York-focused news continue to grow. This is the New York News. Stay informed, stay aware, and as always, stay New York. We'll see you next time.